Can't keep my hands to myself. Hands to myself. Can't keep my hands to myself.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So before I get started, I thought I should mention, yes, the blonde is back. I don't know how long I'm going to keep it like this though, because honestly, it is so annoying. With darker hair, you can't really tell when like there's a strand out of place, but with blonde hair, one single strand will mess up the entire look, and there's even one right here that's bothering me. So it's like, I don't know, it bothers me. So for now it's back because I feel like when it gets warmer, I like wearing more lighter colors for my hair. But yeah, I don't know. I'll be switching in and out of the two colors for now. But anyways, I haven't done a story time video in forever. So I wanted to do a video for you guys, like a story time video. And the one I am going to be doing is the one that you guys have been asking for a long time. So it is going to be the story of when I actually lied to my professor and got away with it. So I mentioned this story probably a couple years ago in one of my videos, and then I always would briefly mention it at the end of my storytime videos, but I never really gave you guys the full details. So this happened, I'd say, yeah, it was junior year this happened. And it happened during my spring semester. Now this class was actually the class that I took with my husband. We didn't really take too many classes together. We took one class together freshman year, and I think we took another one. We ended up taking like one class each time per year, but junior year was his senior year and my junior year. So we did end up taking a class together in that spring semester. To be honest, it wasn't even a class that I needed to take. I think it was like one of those clinical psychology classes, like more like a health field track class, if that makes any sense. But I ended up taking it because my husband was in there, and that's the main reason why. So it ended up being like one of those elective classes for me. So I remember getting in there and thinking, oh, this isn't going to be too bad, you know, it's just going to be a regular class like any other class. But it turns out it was like a level 400 class, which is kind of like a senior year class. And it was a lot of work. So the way this class was actually set up, they had 3 major assignments that would equal the entire grade of the class. So 1/3 of it was kind of like classwork, stuff you turned in, coming into class on time, things like that. And then they also had 2 other tests that made up 2/3 of the grade. So if you failed one of these tests, then you automatically are like getting a C. And then if you failed 2 of these tests, you automatically failed the class. So basically coming into class and things like that, it wasn't too bad. I remember sitting there taking notes, thinking things were going to be easy because it is like a health class. But it wasn't like your typical health class, if that makes any sense. It was really like intense. The first week was crazy. I remember thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I remember just taking notes and trying my best and thinking, you know, maybe I can sail through this because I'm kind of understanding what the teacher is talking about, if that makes any sense. So anyways, I think I was doing pretty good in that class. I remember doing like all the class assignments and getting good grades for that, as well as always being on time and stuff like that. But it was a morning class. I think it was like 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that. It was really early. It was a morning class, I remember for sure. But we had actually gotten the study guide a week before spring break. And not even a week before. I say it was like the Friday of, you know, going into spring break. And I don't think that's a good time to give anyone a study guide. And on top of it, that study guide was so intense. It was like medical terms and definitions you need to know. And it was like, I want to say at least like 5 or 6 pages thick. Like it was an intense test. And I remember the professor telling us that we might as well spend the entire spring break studying for it, because that is just basically how it is. You're either going to pass or you're going to fail. And of course, knowing me, I'm not going to listen to that. I took that study guide home, probably left it, because as soon as spring break started, I had went to Orlando with my husband, and that's when he actually had proposed to me then. But I remember coming back. We came back, when was it? Sunday, I want to say, like really late Sunday night. And we were like, crap, the next day is our test. We haven't even studied at all. And we had went out and got these 5-hour energy drinks. And that was the only time in my life I've ever drank a 5-hour energy drink. And I remember drinking it and getting sick to my stomach and like shaking and everything, because already, like, if I have too much like coffee, if I go to Dunkin' Donuts to get like a large coffee, my hands will start shaking because I cannot take that much caffeine. So having a 5-hour energy was not good. And I remember actually when I was done studying, trying to close my eyes and go to sleep around like 6 in the morning right before class for like an hour, and I could not. Like, it was like my eyes inside of my head were like racing back and forth. Like, it was the worst feeling ever. I would not recommend a 5-hour energy drink to anyone, especially if you don't like do well with caffeine from coffee. So that was not good. But we ended up studying like crazy, and I want to say like we got home like 9 o'clock. We were studying all the way to like 7. And I just remember telling my husband like, look, this is not going to work. I know I'm going to fail. I was just so, and like had so much anxiety about this test. I just knew it wasn't going to go right. So my husband was like, well, what are we going to do? And I'm like, look, we have to think of something. So I actually remember emailing my professor and telling him that me and my husband had went up to New Jersey for spring break, and we were going to come back, but I know this sounds bad. And I did tell my dad afterwards about this, so I'll explain it at the end. But I emailed my professor and told him that we were going to head on back, but my dad had gotten really sick and he had to go to the hospital. So I emailed my professor that, and I was just like, phew, I don't have to worry about this test until like another date at least. So he had emailed me right away and said, you know, of course he was praying for me, and it makes me feel worse thinking about it, but he had said he was praying for me and to just make sure to bring in a doctor's note when I come in, and that way we can retake the test. So of course I was thinking to myself, oh crap, like we don't have a doctor's note. And on top of all this, the professor was a certified like licensed doctor. So as soon as he said this, I was thinking to myself, this is it. I am going to fail this class, obviously. I might even be kicked out of school. Like, it was just, everything was racing through my mind of horrible things. So I ended up telling my husband what happened. He's freaking out. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I remember looking online at doctor's notes and things like that, but I was just like, I don't want to end up downloading a fake doctor's note and the doctor finds out, you know? So I called up my sister and I was like, look, because a couple of years before that, my dad did get sick, and he was, you know, in and out of the hospital around that time. So I had called my sister and I was like, look, you need to go in the file cabinet at home and look for Dad's medical records, anything that you can find to help me. Like, I explained the whole situation to her. So she was like, okay, all right. So she was looking all over through the medical records and things like that. Now, mind you, this happened in 2009. So Layla's in here now, so just in case you hear anything, that's her. But mind you, this story happened in 2009. She was able to find a doctor's note from the hospital, the exact same, I want to say the exact same month and everything, but for 2001. So to be able to find that was like, I swear it was like the heavens were opening up for me. I felt like I had another chance at life. So what I did was, because it was 2001 and right then it was 2009, I changed that 1 to a 9. And then I also remember I signed, like, I don't want to say it was the doctor's note, the doctor's handwriting at the bottom. I think I signed like my dad's handwriting where it said patient signature. And yeah, so that's the crazy part about it. And so I remember I was just like, this had better work, because if it doesn't, we're screwed. So what happened was the class met every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Wednesday morning came, I kid you not, when I went to give it to the professor, like my hands were shaking again. Like whenever I get nervous, my hands will start shaking. So I could never be a surgeon, but my hands were shaking, and I was just like, God, please don't let him notice that my hands are shaking. So this was after class. I went to give it to him as well. So I gave it to him, and he's like this little guy, and he has these little glasses, and I remember he always reminded me of like the mole from Thumbelina, and so like the mole rat or whatever. But anyways, I handed it to him, and he looked at it for like a minute, and then he's like, okay, Kimberly, here you go. And then he was like, I'm praying for your father. I was just like, oh, thank you. I was so like, I cannot believe I got away with that, because I literally had to change around that entire doctor's note. But it was the same doctor's note, but like 8 years earlier. So that's the only reason how I was able to get away with that. But I definitely would not recommend doing that again because I think he just like briefly glanced over it compared to what he could have done. Like he could have wrote down the doctor's name, he could have called the doctor. So I definitely would not recommend doing that at all. That is my story of actually lying to a professor and getting away with it. I definitely don't recommend it because it could have turned out a lot worse. But I'm so glad that I got away with it because if not, it would have been pretty bad. My mom would have killed me. I know she would have. But, oh, I forgot to mention, I did end up telling my dad and he was like hysterically laughing over it and he was just like, I'm so glad you got away with it. Like my dad is really chill. So he had no problems with me doing that. He was just like, that's so funny. I definitely could not have done that with my mom, but my dad is more like, relax. I swear he acts like he's 20 something. Like he's the coolest. But yeah, I was able to tell him that and he was completely fine with it. But yeah, that is my quick story time. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time and I will see you in the next one. Bye.